So if people don't know, I went on Piers Morgan, was it last week? Yeah, last Monday. So over a week ago. And I was told that I would be debating someone named Shabbos Kestenbaum, who is a whistleblower when it comes to anti-Semitism at Harvard. He's also affiliated with PragerU, and also spoke at Kufi and talks about which is Christians United for Israel, and talks about how much Kufi has his back. And Kufi, of course, is that's John Hagee's megachurch organization lobby, and he does have our back in the sense that he wants us to go back, in quotes, to Israel, where 400 of us get to survive, I think, and everyone else gets to burn in eternal damnation. And the 400 of us who get to survive, that's because we accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. So that's the guy who has our back. He also described Hitler as a hunter sent by God. And what was the other one that Hitler and Jesus, what is it? Hitler, the Antichrist is half Jewish and gay like Hitler?
Yeah, it was back in the day. It was like 2007 when John Hagee's Cornerstone Church would put these clips on YouTube, and I would just watch them, and just like, it was just endless entertainment.
Yeah.
It was like hallucinating. And at one point he said that the Antichrist, when he returns, he will be half Jewish and homosexual with fierce features.
Oh yeah, fierce.
They said, and he will be half Jewish as Hitler was.
Right.
But he recently predicted that the U.S. that Israel will destroy Russia, Germany, and Libya and Iran in a war that was predicted in the Bible because of the reference to a place called Rush in the book of Revelations.
Oh, wow. So he decoded that?
It's kind of like he has a slot in the side of his head, and like a bunch of neocons from like American Enterprise Institute like put their policy papers in his head, and then it comes out the other side as like
Christian,
eschatological,
right,
apocalyptic, Pentecostal faith healing bunkum for the Fox News boomer set.
He rapture washes it. He rapture launders it.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at this clip. So I went on Piers Morgan. I knew I was going to debate this guy, Shabbos Kestenbaum. So in order to prepare, I looked at some debates that he had been on, Piers Morgan. And this one struck me as maybe not the most honest or informed. So let's take a look at what Shabbos said.
I defended Israel's right to defend itself for a long time and got attacked for it all the time by people supportive of the Palestinian position. But I can't defend it now. Can you defend it? Can you honestly, hand on heart, defend what is happening on a daily basis with all these Palestinians being slaughtered at food sites? And don't just say it's all Hamas, because it's not.
Sure. So let's be clear. I do not defend the Israel Defense Forces. I laud and applaud them every day, who have set a standard that will be virtually impossible for any Western country to match in a future war. In a dense urban environment, Israel has one of the lowest combatant to civilian ratios of modern warfare. Israel has actually given more aid into Gaza than pre-October 7th. This is a genocide that could be alleged genocide that could be stopped at any.
Nice Freudian slip, by the way, Shabbos. Thanks for admitting it is a genocide. Okay.
Israel has actually given more aid into Gaza than pre-October 7th. This is a genocide that could be alleged genocide that could be stopped at any point should the Hamas government decide to release the hostages and surrender. This point has been made very clear by Benjamin Netanyahu.
Except Benjamin Netanyahu said that even if they release the hostages, this won't stop him. Like, he's also said that. That's been made clear.
The Minister of Israel, this has been made clear by Benny Gantz. This has been made clear by Gideon Sa'ar. This war can end the minute Hamas surrenders and returns the hostages. In fact, there's a ceasefire deal on the table right now that Adam Bowler, who's the U.S. envoy for hostages, and Steve Witkoff have repeatedly offered to Hamas. That deal is on the table and has been on the table for the last 2 weeks. The only party that has rejected that ceasefire is Hamas. So if you truly want the killing to stop, if you truly want...
You can hear... He's rattling out these talking points faster than he can like breathe.
Well, he's the Hasbara-tron, like that's how he was trained.
Exactly, yeah.
Want the war to end. If you truly want there to be a ceasefire, then you would use your platform. We would use campus activists to immediately put pressure on Hamas to surrender. The pressure should not be on Israel. Israel is engaging in a defensive war. I am proud of what Israel has done. Certainly, innocent civilians are being killed, which is a tragedy. But we do not judge the efficacy, the validity, or the justification on a war on how many civilians are being killed. That is not how you judge a war. No war has ever been judged. In the Korean War, 3 million civilians were killed. In Iraq, more than 500,000 civilians were killed. In the Syrian civil war, 300,000 civilians were killed. Civilian death is always a terrible thing, but is a consequence.
Can you name me? All right, Shabbos. Can you name me? Name me a recent war since World War II where the proportion of children in civilian deaths has been this high. Can you just give me one?
I just did. The Syrian civil war, the Korean war, the Vietnam war, any battle in Iraq.
Look at the way he's like looking to the left, like he has an AIPAC handler or a PragerU handler who's like putting up numbers or being like, yeah, say this, yeah. Okay, watch.
It is that is like he's been in courses where they do that, and like they Stand With Us does have those courses, and they drill you, and you have to study. What you don't do is scholarship. You don't do journalism. You don't go anywhere and learn anything, and that's the point. And you get rewarded. So it's actually kind of fascinating. He's sort of like a computer.
Yeah,
he's there will come a point in history when, and they're working on it on social media, like the Twitter account Neo Berg or Vivid Prowess.
Yeah,
these are practically AI systems that are designed by Israeli intelligence to pump out Hasbara, but he's just emerged as the sort of top, like, human Hasbarist to be able to get to this point. And he's been chosen for this task, and he, was chosen at Harvard to do this. And as you say, he's not an organic phenomenon who's just emerged in our meritocracy as this great, brilliant podcaster or journalist.
Korean War, the Vietnam War, any battle in Iraq, whether it was
you believe
Mosul,
the proportion of children to civilians killed was higher than it is right now in Gaza.
I just told you all of those wars, and you can fact check me all you would like.
All right. So here's what I did, Max. I did fact check him, and I told him this when I appeared on the show. So let's take a look at this interaction between me and Shabbos. Consistently lies, and Israel's defenders consistently lie because they don't have the facts on the ground, and they certainly don't have the moral argument. This is a very inhumane and unjust and immoral. Look how upset he is, by the way. He has his arms folded. An illegal genocide. And that's not just me saying that. That's countless genocide experts. That's Zionists who have been saying that. The Israeli Jewish Human Rights Organization, B'Tselem, says it's a genocide. Physicians for Human Rights says it's a genocide. All of these Israeli organizations say it's a genocide. And Shabbos, I just watched the panel with you, and you lied through your teeth the entire time. You even said, fact check me. Pierce asked you if the proportion of children killed was higher in Gaza than it was in other wars. And you said that it was as high in other wars. And you named the Syrian civil war, Vietnam, and Korea. Unfortunately, the stats don't back you up. And the proportion of children killed in all of those wars was lower. I can go over the stats with you, but was lower than the proportion of children killed in Gaza. So we have an active genocide going on. It is actually illegal for the United States to support this genocide. It violates the Leahy Law. It violates the Foreign Assistance Act. It is a threat to every living person. I don't speak out because this has a dangerous effect on Jews. It does have a dangerous effect on Jews. I speak out because I believe that Palestinians are human beings with human rights. I also speak out because Israel doesn't get to speak for all Jews. But the irony is that for all the people like you who talk about Jewish safety, the irony is that you are making Jews less safe. Israel is making Jews less safe. AIPAC is making Jews less safe. The ADL is making Jews less safe. And you're engaging in the anti-Semitic trope of equating Jewishness with Zionism. Every time that you claim that all Jews have to be Zionists or that it's anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist, you are leaning into that dual loyalty trope, which claims that all Jews are a monolith and we all support Israel. And again, when you're live streaming a genocide that the entire world sees, and you're saying that this is for the sake of Jews, I don't know how that's good for the Jews. All right. Now, obviously, I know, Max, it's very annoying that the framing of it, is it good for the Jews? Like, we're over that. But I did want to just show the irony in these, anti-Semitism watchdog individuals, that there happen to be, of course, perpetuating anti-Semitism. But as you said, Israel needs that, et cetera. But the relevant point here is that I said he was lying through his teeth, and I said the stats don't back him up. So then this is how Shabbos responded on Twitter. He was very angry that I said he was lying through his teeth. It's actually insane how detached from reality this argument is. You're objectively wrong. Syrian civil war, 600,000 civilian deaths, at least 40,000 children.
That itself is not the SOHR. Those are not the SOHR figures. He just made that up.
Yeah, right. SOHR, which stands for Syrian
Observatory for Human Rights, which was
exactly
sort of an MI6 organization, and very on the side of the Syrian opposition. They have the numbers closer to 300,000, with 150,000 dying on the government loyalist side, being killed by anti-government death squads that were supported in many ways by Israel in the Syrian Golan. So the Vietnam War was also openly supported by Israel. Moshe Dayan, who is the Israeli army chief of staff or defense minister, I think he was the chief of staff at the time, he traveled to Vietnam and delivered a show of support for U.S. troops there. And then it's also kind of like, all right, the Korean War. Yeah, the U.S. committed genocide in in what is now North Korea. Why are these like metrics that you're using for? It's insane.
Yeah.
It's not as though we're defending the U.S. conduct in North Korea.
Right.
But all he's doing is a basic count of deaths, not accounting for per capita deaths among the population. He's using the most conservative statistic possible among deaths in Gaza, when I guarantee you we will see per capita the highest death count in modern times when this is all over, including excess deaths.
Yeah. And it's so funny because he's so dumb or lying. It's not clear. With Shabbos, you really don't know. With some people, you can tell they're just liars, or some people are just dumb. I think he's probably a combination, which makes him a good, useful Hasbarist idiot. But he's not talking about proportions in like the Syrian civil war. Where's the proportion of kids, right? And here is, he's not giving the actual percentage. He's just throwing out numbers. But a couple things to note. Okay, so one is, so then I had to fact check his fact checking. And it turns out that in Gaza, the verified casualty list used by the UN and Reuters shows that roughly 1/3 of the dead are children. In the Syrian civil war, according to Shabbos' source, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, it's actually not even the number he gave, as you pointed out, Max. It's 199,000 civilians have been killed. Of this, 26,282 were children. So that is, according to that, it's 13. According to his very source, the percent is 13.2, which is obviously lower than a 30%, which is what we're seeing in Gaza. It's a little higher according to Lancet, which says it's 17.2%.
Yeah, and just, I don't know if SOHR was counting deaths in like Raqqa and Mosul during the coalition campaigns against ISIS, but that's where so many civilian deaths occurred, because they were carrying out a similar style of warfare as Israel in Gaza, where they're just bombing the crap out of these entire cities. I mean, half of Raqqa was destroyed. One of the heads of the U.S. coalition, the general who directed the attack on Raqqa, I believe, went to Israel after October 7th to advise them on what they were about to do. And he actually came away kind of shaking his head, because the Israelis were preparing something that he even considered ghastly. His name isn't coming to me, but I guarantee you that what I'm telling you actually happened.
Sure. Yeah, unlike, oh, you mean they can fact check you, Max? And when they fact check you, they'll actually find facts that are supporting you, as opposed to facts on. I guess he's, to be fair, he did say fact check me, and you can fact check him, and then you find out that his facts are wrong. So he did invite us.
But it's not, he's just a computer. He's like, he just represents the lobby, and he's not speaking to you anyway. He actually, he doesn't really care what you think. He's not trying to convince
of course, yeah,
the viewer. What he's trying to do is present the lobby's arguments, which is the Israeli government's arguments, in these various fora, and he will then be supported and showered with Adelson money and all of these scholarships, and he'll have a great career as a sort of professional Zionist propagandist. And what they're also trying to do is force us to rebut demented and totally false points and to waste our energy doing that instead of to plow forward with reality and education. And I think the most important thing you did in that episode, which I think is the most, that what we bring to the table, is to help viewers unpack the genocidal logic of Zionism and how perverse it is within Jewish life, and to sort of to break down the logic of Zionism. And Piers Morgan doesn't bring on enough guests who are capable of doing that. And I've wondered if it was by design, and he'll bring on openly anti-Semitic opponents of the genocide who wind up reinforcing Zionism and are the other side of the coin of Zionism by doing the same thing that Shabbos Kestenbaum does, which is conflating all Jews with Zionism. And, at this point, I'm not coming at them hard. I'm not like trying to argue with them, because if I were some Gentile who didn't go to like a good college where I'm around a lot of Jews, and I was from like a smaller city or a small town and just like didn't go to bar mitzvahs growing up, then I would just look at what's happening right now and think that it's just a Jewish genocide. It's a Jewish Holocaust, like, because every communal institution and almost every Jewish pundit that you see on corporate media, Jewish public figure, and those who are put forward to make the case for Israel are all genocidal psychopaths. So how would that person know any different? We have almost no voice except in our little podcasts.
I just want to show, you were saying how he is a Hasbara bot, right? Like John Hagee gets his talking points and they come out, rapture ready. Shabbos gets his talking points and they come out Shabbos proofed.
Sort of like Alex Z. Keaton.
Yeah, exactly. Kosher, they come out kosher. So I want to see if you can pick up on a similarity between Shabbos and someone else. So let's just take a listen to this very short clip of Shabbos. This is right after Piers asked him if he can still defend the IDF. Let's take a listen.
Sure. So let's be clear. I do not defend the Israel Defense Forces. I laud and applaud them.
Okay, so he does not defend the IDF. He lauds and applauds them. Now let's take a listen to another Jewish civil rights activist who goes by the name of Ben Shapiro. Let's take a listen here.
I don't just condone the actions of the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli government. I celebrate and laud them.
So one celebrates and lauds, the other applauds and lauds. I don't just condone them. I celebrate and laud them. And the other one says, I don't defend them. I laud and applaud them.
I mean, that's a pretty fascinating juxtaposition that proves the point I was making, which is that all of these talking points are fed into this giant Hasbaratron AI computer, and then they come out of the mouths of the human Hasbara bots who get sent forth to preach the word of genocide. And Ben Shapiro is sort of the, he's considered the premier Hasbarist. In many ways, he writes the script. Right. And what they want for the young generation is to seem based. Like you can see like the older generation sitting in a conference room. Like, do you know what based means?
Yeah, right.
Young people like to be based. It started on this thing called 4chan, and Jews need to be based. So we laud the IDF. We don't just defend it.
Yeah. So just so I'm not misquoting anyone, Ben Shapiro says, I don't just condone the actions of the Israeli Defense Force and the Israeli government. I celebrate and laud them. Yeah. Kestenbaum says, I do not defend the Israel Defense Forces. I laud and applaud them. So I don't just condone the actions of the Israel Defense Force and the Israeli government. I celebrate and laud them. And Shabbos says, I do not defend the Israel Defense Forces. I laud and applaud them.
Yeah.
So the laud. Yeah. So they're like, don't do the exact, they're like, don't do the totally verbatim. Here are some words. Do like figure out which ones you want to use, mix and match, and go with God. Good Yantiv. Yeah.